Hi, I'm Jay, and I'm going to tell you about the time I got stuck in an elevator with three popular girls for 24 hours. But before I do, please remember to subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up and hit that notification bell icon to show your support for me. I knew exactly who they were as soon as they got on the elevator. As if anyone in that town wouldn't have any idea who Haley, Emma, and Lola were. They were basically town heroes. The three grew up there. And when they gained fame as influencers on Instagram, they began making YouTube videos about our little town. It was a huge thing. Because of those three girls, our town began welcoming so many tourists. They had to put up 3 new hotels in the area. Where once there were potholes, now there were brand new roads. We were mostly known for our potholes before. Now, we were known for our cherry festival, our charming sandstone cottages, and the beautiful lake resort that the mayor's family owns. Most of all, our town became known as Haley, Emma, and Lola's hometown. I never really met them before. I just knew about them because my younger brother was in the same year as them, and he was a fan of theirs. There wouldn't be a dinner at our house where Brian wouldn't mention what they did on their videos that day. To be honest, I was getting sick of hearing about it. But when I actually watched some of their content online, I understood why my brother gushed about them. They were pretty nice girls, always helping out wherever they could. And while a lot of their videos were about makeup, boys, and traveling, they also fought for causes they cared about. Haley was a staunch supporter of the World Wildlife Foundation. Emma championed her own charity which helps small businesses. And Lola volunteers her time to feed homeless people. All 3 of them were always vocal about LGBTQ+ rights as well. In their videos, they showed how they helped their community and their causes. I found out that because of them, the mayor finally got some budget to give our town a facelift, and to improve his constituents' standard of living. I have to admit, at that point, I became a fan just as much as my little brother. And on that fateful day, when they got onto the elevator I was taking, I felt like I was the luckiest guy in the world. They were beautiful, and they didn't seem stuck up at all, unlike some popular people. They smiled at me and greeted me a good morning. I was at the hotel to help my dad with his businesses. He installed lighting fixtures for the new rooms, and I stayed behind to make sure everything was in working order. I was too shy to actually talk to them, so I just nodded and smiled back at the girls. Little did I know, fate was going to do the work for me. As the elevators made its way down to the lobby, we heard a squeaking sound. And then, it wobbled. I saw the girls look at each other in fear. And then, the elevator went into a free fall. There were only 8 floors on that new hotel, and we were coming out from the 4th. Nevertheless, I feared for our lives. We could very well end up injured. Luckily, the fall only lasted a second. The elevator tensed back up and stopped. The sudden stoppage caused all 4 of us to fall to the floor. Despite having braced ourselves on the elevator's handlebars, I was still breathing heavily when I checked that all 3 of the girls were all right. They nodded and told me they were fine. "Are you all right?" asked Lola. I told her I was, and then I pressed the button to open the elevator. It didn't work. I tried the emergency button, but there was only a static tone. That was when panic set in. We see it in a lot of movies and in TV shows, and most of the time, elevator hiccups can be solved in a few minutes. I don't know what it is, but just knowing we were stuck in there sent us all in panic, even though we all knew the building management could probably sort it out quickly. The only thing we needed to do was alert them of the problem. The thing was, the emergency button didn't work. I mashed the button again, hoping it would work, but all I got was the same static tone. "This is why you don't build a hotel in a hurry," I said to the girls. "There's shoddy work, and I hear they get their elevators on a budget." Emma gave me a scared look. "But they'll get us soon, right?" "I'm sure they will," assured Haley. "We just need to let them know we're stuck." I pressed the emergency button again. No answer. "I'll try their reception," said Lola as she took her phone out. But as soon as she looked at her screen, her face fell. "No signal," she said. "Just our luck." Well, everyone knows elevators aren't the best for cell phone coverage, but still, We hoped that we could at least get the word out that we were trapped in an elevator. My dad was probably annoyed that he had to wait in the car longer than he should have. I began to shout for help. Help! We're stuck in here! Help! The elevator's stuck! I kept repeating until I heard approaching footsteps and a guy called back to us. You alright? The man asked through the metal doors. We're all fine, I think. We're all fine, right? I asked the girls. We're all right, Emma called to the man outside. We'd just like to get out, please. Could you tell management for us, bud? I added. We tried the emergency button and it didn't work. Okay, I'll ask them to bring someone up here. Hang tight, said the man. And then we heard him running. It only took about a minute, and we heard a knock on the metal doors. Odd thing to hear, I thought. Never really heard anyone knock on an elevator before. Yes, hi, I answered the knock. We're stuck in the elevator. Could you help us get out, please? Yes, right away, sir. We are currently contacting our maintenance people, and they will get back to us. For the moment, we will try our best to do what we can, said the man who knocked. And then, more footsteps. They talked amongst themselves in a hushed tone, but I could still hear a new voice say, They said the maintenance people are out of town. The fastest they can get here is in an hour or two. They're flying someone out to deal with it. The downside of living in the middle of nowhere and having facilities that rely on big city services? That. Nobody in our small town was an elevator technician. And if they were, they wouldn't be living there. Moreover, companies tend to have their elevators repaired by the people who installed them. In this case, the hotel made use of a company that was one plane ticket away. I wish I'd taken the stairs that day. The man we were talking to introduced himself as the hotel's manager, Mr. Thompson. He asked for our names and the numbers of those the hotel staff could contact to inform that we were stuck in the elevator, just in case our families were getting worried about where we were. And when the people who were standing by the elevator's doors heard the girls' names, it was as if they'd heard that the president himself was there. Quick! 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 I heard Mr. Thompson say in a panic. Call them again! This is a disaster! I guess the upside to popularity is that people tend to put in more effort. Couldn't you pry the doors open in the meantime? Suggested Emma. I've seen people do it. Maybe we can just walk out if someone can pry it open. Good idea, said Mr. Thompson. In a few minutes, someone returned with a crowbar, and we heard the noises it made when they began prying the doors open. A few huffs, a few labored breaths, and Mr. Thompson tutted and tisked. They did manage to pry it open to about a few inches, but then it shut again. I'm so sorry. The doors wouldn't give. We'll try calling the fire department if they can send someone down the elevator shaft to come rescue you guys. I deeply, deeply apologize. Please, hang in there and we'll get the help we need, said Mr. Thompson. Unfortunately, the fire department didn't get to save us. The owner of the hotel heard of the situation and forbade the rescue. Apparently, the roof of the elevator where they needed to gain access to the inside needed to be hacked open, and the owner didn't want to void his warranty on his newly installed elevators. Besides, we'd only been there an hour, so he said it wasn't an emergency. Which was true, but it was still a jerk move. More bad news followed when Mr. Thompson informed us that the maintenance people from the elevator company couldn't find a flight for the same day. Their flights had been grounded due to bad weather, and the earliest time they could get someone over was the next day. That was when real panic came over the four of us. Now it was a real emergency. How would we eat or drink? Would they really be able to get us out of there in 24 hours? What if the bad weather continued and there were no flights for a couple more days? Where would we, relieve ourselves if we needed to? Mr. Thompson, in contrast to the hotel's owner, was a complete angel. He made sure we had food and water. Through the small slit they could get open, he passed on a bunch of burgers and drinks. He even gave us blankets to keep us warm. And for privacy, if we ever needed the bathroom, he gave us sealable bags for that too. Emma, Haley, Lola, and I made the best of our time in there. No matter how embarrassing it was and how awkward some of the time we spent in there became, we played games when we got desperate about how to pass the time. We played charades, Never Have I Ever, and even I Spy. That game got pretty boring pretty quickly, seeing as if anyone ever ended up saying, I spy something that starts with the letter B, it was bound to be either buttons or burgers. I don't remember when, but I eventually fell asleep. And when I woke up, it was to a loud metal clanging. Were we finally saved? I looked around and the girls were up as well. They all had the same look on their faces as I did. Before I could ask the girls if they knew what was happening, the elevator began to hum and move. And then, the door finally opened. There were people waiting to help us, and Mr. Thompson looked like he'd spent the night in the corridor, making sure we were all right the whole time. The girls hugged him, and so did I. We all still remain friends to this day. In fact, I started dating Emma, and Mr. Thompson? He quit. He said he wouldn't ever work for the hotel owner again. He said someone who would put a warranty over people's safety wasn't fit to run a service-oriented business. And I agree.